Well, I mean, it's always something, right?
You got that right. Ask Mike Woodson.
Oh gosh,
It's always
starting
something.
early.
There you look at your first comment. Half full Schutte.
Not today, I don't think.
Not today.
Not today. Because I haven't had a chance to comment. I mean, the end of that Ohio State game and what you saw in overtime.
Oh man.
The thing that I think is frustrating, if you watch that game, is that was Mike Woodson coaching the NBA.
Exactly.
To not have a play design, and in the NBA, for people who may not watch it, if you got a guy that's got a hot hand, that guy is capable of holding the ball for the final shot, pulling up. You're comfortable with that kind of play at the end of the game. That's kind of how the NBA rolls. There was no offense. Tamar Bates just stood out there with the ball, waited. 99.9% of college basketball head coaches are going to say, if that's what you're going to run, we'll live with it. If he makes a shot, he makes a shot. If you're not going to run an offense, if you're not going to try to attack the basket, that was a poor coaching job down that stretch. And there were some other things I picked up on, too, that, I mean, you can just see that the lack of development with Trace Jackson Davis hurt him. They put him down. Ohio State was defending him, so he was on the low block. Let's see if you're facing that basket, the right low block. So he can't use his left hand. And if he is using his left hand, he's fading away from the basket, some sort of half-assed floater. I mean, it's easy to see why this team has lost, 5 straight games now? That was encapsulating of it.
You got it, man. Instead of half full, instead of a half full Schutte, now it looks like he's quarter full. If he keeps drinking that cup, it's not going to be much left in it. Yeah, I mean, that's been the gist of things. But we haven't really talked about that aspect of it. And I agree with you. I think that there has been way too much NBA-style coaching. The mass substitutions. Mm-hmm. You can do that in the pros because all 5 of those guys that are coming in is a professional athlete.
Right.
So not only is that not the case, you don't even have equality in the college ranks of the guys that he's bringing in. He's bringing in a JV team, and that's the difference. He doesn't have the troops right now. I mean, that's part of it, but he has to know that. He doesn't have the people that can go create their own shot and instead of drawing up a play, but he doesn't have the guy that can go get that bucket. They don't have the guy that can knock that shot down when they need it. He will have, but he doesn't right now, and he has to coach them up like they don't have the talent instead of letting them just go. That is what's been so frustrating from my aspect.
That's the difference. If on that final possession you had a Johnny Davis, a Jaden Ivey, a Keegan Murray, an EJ Liddell even, if you had somebody of that caliber, then you might be able to live with it. You might, right? Like, this guy's been hot all game. He's been our superstar all season. That's the guy you want taking the shot. You can kind of live with it. But Indiana doesn't have that guy. They haven't had that guy in a long time. You thought that maybe Trace Jackson, I still don't understand why you're not trying to get he still can't hit a jump shot. So, I mean, to allow that ball to just stand out there and dribble for I don't remember what the time was when they got the ball back. To allow that to happen, not run an offense, I don't know if they had any timeouts, not to call a timeout, just to try to play hero ball is essentially what that boils down to. That is not going to cut it when you don't have that kind of player, when you don't have a potential Big Ten Player of the Year candidate. So it just doesn't make any sense. And I understand that this is a learning process. It's a learning curve. And you said, Jim, that they don't have the troops. I disagree with that to an extent. They don't have a team that's Final Four caliber. We can agree on that. But They had a team capable of beating Wisconsin both times. They had a team capable of beating Penn State, of beating Ohio State. You win those 3 games, just those 3. We're talking about a completely different scenario. You've had so many games you've let slip away. This team is capable of winning big-time games and beating big-time opponents. They've already beaten Ohio State. They've already beaten Purdue. They've got some big wins on their resume. They've got to the point where this is what happened under Archie. They would get to a certain point of the season, and then they would just completely crumble, and you're seeing it again.
Well, there we knew that they weren't being coached. Now you have to think. You're like, wait a minute. You got Mike Woodson. You got Dane Fife. You got Thad Matta. You got Kenya and Yasmin, and he's got Armand Hill. They've got a staff, man.
They do.
That's a thing that just this late in the year to continue to hear that they have to get them over the hump, have to teach them how to win. That's BS. I said it yesterday. You know how to win. You know how to win if you've been playing if you've been playing Little League baseball since you're 10 years old. You know how to win. You know the difference between winning and losing and what it takes to win and not lose.
Not only that, they've won some close games. Okay, let's go back to the beginning. And I know that the competition, but look, they finished off the St. John's game, right? They finished off Eastern Michigan. I know those aren't same caliber. You found a way to beat Purdue. You destroyed Ohio State the first time. Like, to me, that's no longer acceptable. This team has won some close games, and maybe they beat a big-time opponent in a close game. They beat a top-5 Purdue team in a close game. They beat some lesser opponents in close games early in the season. Like, you can't come up with that excuse anymore. It's one thing if you continually lose those games and say, if we could just get that one game, we would get the confidence. You have those games. That's no longer an excuse. It comes down to coaching. And again, I said this last week, there's no leader on this team that just says, this is what we're going to do in the final 2 minutes. There's nobody that they don't have that guy. You don't even need a Johnny Davis or a Keegan Murray or a Jaden Ivey to win those games. You just have to have a leader that says, we got to run the offense. The ball's not going to stand out there, and we're not going to dribble it for 20 seconds and settle for a 30-foot shot. You've got to have that guy, and they don't have that guy, and that's why they're not winning these games.
And not only do they not have the guy, people that aren't the guy that continue to try to be the guy make it worse.
I think that's coaching, though, don't you?
Yes. If you have the green light to take 16 shots in a game when you shouldn't be.
Yep.
That's I mean, there are limits too. I mean, who's he going to put in? Like the other day, who's he going to put in and run the point?
That's true. Yeah. I mean, that's
not only is Finney out probably for the season. Trey Galloway was down.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they're in a corner. They don't have the players they really need. I'll be honest with you. I mean, yes, they have the players to have gotten by this season, and that's what they needed, because that would have given this remaining team the confidence that next year, oh man, we can play. And then you get better recruits in, better players, the team gets better. And but that's not winning those games. What have you learned? What have you learned?
Yeah, it doesn't look like much.
Have they learned how to win all of a sudden? No.
Well, and I mean, I keep going back to, I've heard a lot of people say that they don't have, and you just mentioned it, and I think that you're not saying it the way it comes across on Twitter, social media. They don't have the players. They don't have the guys. Again, you're right. They don't have the guys to win the Big Ten. They don't have the guys to get to the Final Four and compete for a national championship, be on that level. But you can't blow a 22-point lead at Wisconsin. You can't blow a 5 or 6 point lead against Ohio State in the final minute and a half. You can't blow what were they up against Wisconsin? 4 points, 5 points in the final 2 minutes. If you've got the horses to win, to get to that point that late in the game, you need to be able to close it out. And again, you go back to the Purdue game, and I know that they're shorthanded. You go back to some of these other games that they've won in close situations.
But
the learning how to win thing is no longer an excuse to me.
Yeah, no. Well, I want to know is, like Joe says that he heard on another show that why you're listening to another show instead of ours, Joe. That's the first thought in my mind. I'm just kidding. That Randy Whitman is working with the team. Well, okay. That makes it worse. So now you've got another guy that you've had to bring in. Why? With a head coach that has had all this NBA experience, Armand Hill, who has 1,000 years of experience, Dane Fife, he may, and not in practice. The biggest thing I need to keep in front of you all is I'm not in practice every day. I have no idea what's going on. So I'm sure that there are frustrations on their part. Well, I know there are frustrations on the coaching side of things as well. But I do think that Mike should have taken the reins a lot earlier, that this is not NBA and that you can't do the mass substitutions. You can't do this. You can't do that. That doesn't work. Well, I know sometimes you have to do them and try them to find out, but I think we've seen all the tricks through the season. So, and like I said, they don't have the horses to overcome some of that. And maybe some of that was him wanting them to overcome things on their own, because I get that as well. So it's basically a big old, you remember the movie? I was thinking about this last night. You remember the movie, The Help?
No.
Damn it. You're down there, right? We're close in the South too. Anyway, this lady made this special pie, chocolate pie.
Okay.
Get my meaning?
Yep. I know what you're talking about.
It's a big old special chocolate pie, and they all have to take a bite. The coaches, the players, every one of them, the starters, the reserves, everybody has played a part in where they are.
Right.
So there's no one person to lay it on, and I'm not going to do that, but I will tell you we got to take a break.